As if on cue, Diane appeared, flanked by 2 board members. "Mr. Collins, we've received complaints that you're harassing festival attendees. Your illegal parking just destroyed a $12,000 commission." Michael countered, pulling back the top to reveal the damaged table. Diane shrugged. "You should have stored it properly. Besides, according to our legal team, your continued allowance of parking constitutes implied consent." What she didn't know was that Michael had been recording every conversation since his meeting with Patricia, including this one, and that his client for the ruined table was Judge Robert Keller, who oversaw civil disputes in their county. Michael worked through the night, installing industrial-grade security cameras that streamed directly to his phone. By dawn, he had placed 4 massive signs around the property with unmistakably clear warnings about towing. He'd also distributed flyers throughout the neighborhood documenting the HOA's unauthorized use of his property, including before and after photos of the damaged conference table. He installed a new security system with an alarm that would alert both him and the police to unauthorized entry. Then he waited. By 10 a.m., the first car arrived, a silver Mercedes belonging to Diane herself. She punched in the old code, looking confused when it failed. Spotting Michael watching from his truck across the street, she stormed over. "The code isn't working." "I changed it," Michael replied calmly. "This is private property, as I've informed you in writing 7 times. This is ridiculous. We have 30 cars coming for the garden tour luncheon. Then you'd better find alternative parking, because any vehicle entering my property will be towed immediately." Diane pulled out her phone. "I'm calling our attorney right now." "Excellent. While you're at it, you can explain to him how you altered legal documents and knowingly trespassed on private property," Michael said, holding up a folder. "My attorney is very interested in discussing this with him." Despite his warnings, 8 cars forced their way in when someone jimmied the side door. Michael called Ajax Towing, a company owned by his cousin that specialized in rapid response. The resulting chaos was visible from 3 blocks away. Festival attendees returned to find their vehicles gone, and Diane was suddenly nowhere to be found. Michael calmly handed out prepared information packets containing towing company details, his attorney's contact information, and copies of his property deeds and zoning documents. 2 days later, Michael received a hand-delivered letter. The HOA board had convened an emergency session and voted to 1. Issue a formal apology to Michael Collins. 2. Cover all towing fees for affected residents. 3. Pay for the damaged conference table. 4. Revise all HOA documents to clarify property rights. The letter was signed by the new acting HOA president. Diane had been forced to resign when board members discovered she had been using the community parking arrangement to charge for premium spots and pocket the money. 6 months later, Michael's woodworking business was thriving. Judge Keller, impressed by both Michael's craftsmanship and integrity, had referred several high-profile clients his way. Michael had been elected to the HOA board on a platform of transparency and property rights protection, and in a final twist of poetic justice, he purchased Diane's foreclosed home at auction and converted it into a legitimate, properly permitted showroom for his furniture, with ample, clearly marked parking. Michael Collins wiped sweat from his brow as he signed the final paperwork for his warehouse. After 15 years of crafting furniture in his cramped garage, sleeping only 4 hours a night to meet deadlines, he'd finally saved enough to expand his business. The real estate agent handed him the keys with a peculiar smile that, in retrospect, should have been his first warning. "Congratulations, though you might want to read the HOA agreement thoroughly," she said, tapping a thick binder before quickly changing the subject. 3 weeks later, Michael arrived at his warehouse to find a cherry-red Corvette, 2 SUVs, and a vintage Mustang parked inside. His heart raced as he checked for signs of a break-in, but the lock showed no damage. Inside, a well-dressed man was taking photos of the Corvette. "Hey, this is private property," Michael called out, his voice echoing through the concrete space. The man barely glanced up. "The HOA gave us the code. We're doing a classic car photoshoot for the community magazine." Before Michael could respond, The sound of heels clicking against concrete announced the arrival of Dying Harrington, HOA president and local real estate mogul, dressed in a power suit that probably cost more than Michael's monthly mortgage. "Mr. Collins, I see you've met our community's vintage car enthusiasts," she said with a saccharine smile. "We've been using this space for years. It's all in the community agreement you signed." When Michael protested, her smile vanished. Page 73, subsection C. Perhaps you should have read the fine print before signing. "We have the Winter Festival this weekend, and these cars are our centerpiece display." As she strutted away, Michael noticed oil dripping onto the spot where he planned to store his hand-carved mahogany dining sets. Michael's fingers cramped as he flipped through the dense HOA agreement at 2 a.m., empty coffee cups surrounding him. His woodworking business was already struggling after investing his savings in the warehouse, and he couldn't afford to lose customers because his pieces were damaged by car fluids. A single line on page 73 caught his eye. "Community commercial spaces may be utilized for sanctioned events with standard notice." But something seemed off about the formatting. The font was slightly different than surrounding text. The next morning, bleary-eyed, Michael visited the county records office. The clerk, Betty, took pity on him after hearing his story. "Honey, that warehouse has been a point of contention for years," she confided, pulling up records on her computer. The previous owner was Diane's brother-in-law. He never complained because they had an arrangement. Betty printed out the official zoning documents, pointing to a critical classification: commercial private with restricted access. "This designation explicitly prohibits public use without owner consent," she explained. "And look at this." She pulled up another document showing that the HOA had attempted to have the property rezoned 3 years ago, but was denied. That afternoon, Michael met with Patricia Winters, a razor-sharp attorney who specialized in HOA disputes. "They altered the agreement after you signed it," Patricia said, examining the documents under a special light. "See this watermark? This page was printed more recently than the others." She looked up with a predatory smile. "And I have the emails to prove it." Michael's blood pressure spiked when he arrived at his warehouse during the Spring Garden Festival to find it transformed into a makeshift parking garage. 12 vehicles were crammed inside, including a muddy pickup truck parked directly atop a tarp covering his newest creation, a hand-inlaid walnut conference table commissioned for $12,000. When he managed to squeeze through to check the table, his heart sank. Mud and water had seeped through the top, warping the delicate inlay work. 3 weeks of labor ruined. A woman in a floral dress approached him. "Excuse me, you're blocking my car door." "This is my private warehouse," Michael said through gritted teeth. "These cars shouldn't be here at all." The woman rolled her eyes. "Listen, the HOA president is my sister-in-law. They've been using this space for parking since before you bought it. It's practically a community landmark."